Hi there, my name is Louis from Blue Gypsy Homestead, and today I'd like to discuss a little bit about how to go about planting the garden, or how I plan on planting my garden in the coming year. If this is your first time here, Blue Gypsy Homestead is basically a 62-acre farm located just south of Ottawa, about 35 minutes south of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And for a very long time it was fallow. Now what I've done is I've started to convert it into an actual working sustenance and market farm. Eventually we'll be raising rabbits and chickens, but for now I'd like to concentrate just on seeds. So you might be wondering, what's involved in starting a garden? Well, if you've never done it before, what I like to do first is I start out with a list. I start out with a list of the things I want to plant. What is it that I want to eat? And let's face it, if you're not planting for yourself, perhaps I'm planting for a market garden, but let's just stay simple. If I'm planting for myself, I'm going to write down the things that I want to grow. So, for example, I'm a huge fan of tomatoes, but not just any tomatoes. I'm not a fan of slicing tomatoes. Basically what I want is I want tomatoes that I can turn into a sauce. So that means that I'm left with the basic Italian tomatoes, as they're called. So that's the first thing on my list, because I don't know how many rows of tomatoes I'm going to plant. I've got two 30 by 30 gardens that I use for my vegetables, and so I'm going to take up a fair amount of space in one of those gardens with tomatoes, because that's what I want to concentrate on. The next thing that I really want to grow is I want to grow beans. So I'm not going to go into the details of which kind of beans I'm going to grow yet, because honestly we're not there yet. So I've got tomatoes, I've got beans. I like to grow kale. I might be one of the few people in the world who actually likes kale. I'd like to grow salad greens. So I'll write that down. I'm not actually putting any kind of numbers to this right now. I'm just writing down what I want. So I got salad greens. I'm going to try and grow carrots again. That has not been successful for me in the past, but that doesn't stop me. Potatoes. I'm going to try sweet potatoes. Now, sweet potatoes, unlike potatoes, you don't actually plant the sweet potatoes. You plant a slip from the potatoes. That's a whole other thing. And by the way, the only sweet potato you will get a slip from is an organic one. All the others don't work. So sweet potatoes. Oh yes, I almost forgot. And I could not forget peppers. I love peppers. Now, that can be the bell peppers, that can be the banana peppers, that can be the hot peppers, the non-hot peppers. Being Hungarian, I love the sweet Hungarian peppers. This year I know for a fact that I bought some seeds from a place not too far from here actually that sells the Szegedi paprika. So that paprika is actually a very specialized one. It's considered to be the best in Hungary. You can smoke it if you want, and you can get an even deeper flavor to it. But that's the one that, when we're talking about in Hungarian cuisine at least, that's the pepper we're talking about. It's the Szegedi. So peppers, and again, that'll all break down. I succeeded in growing cucumbers last year. But to be quite honest with you, I did have a lot of cucumbers, and I have too many cucumbers. So I'm not sure if I'm going to plant a lot of those, but I'll put them on the list nonetheless. I love squash. So that's any kind of squash basically. So we're talking about summer squash, we're talking about any number of the squashes, including, by the way, those silly giant pumpkins. Now, do I want to eat a silly giant pumpkin? Probably not. Um, but the thing about it is, it's really just because I've got the space and I figured, oh, what the heck. So, pumpkins, melons. There are 3 or 4 different kinds of melons I would like to grow. Again, I haven't settled on that yet, but they're definitely on the list. So melons are on the list. So right now, in a quick review, I'm looking at tomatoes, beans, kale, salad greens, carrots, potatoes, sweet potatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, pumpkins, and melons. Will I grow other things? I mean, it's entirely possible. Let's take a quick look. I actually did make, oh, of course, strawberries. I ordered, as I always do, about every 3 years, I ordered 500 strawberry plants. Yes, 500. And the reason I order 500 is because, as silly as it sounds, the strawberry plants really only, in my mind, really only give you about three good years. After that, yes, they're still alive, but they don't really grow very, very much. Onions, garlic, that's a given. But the garlic I've already planted. The garlic was planted last October because the garlic has to overwinter. So that's the thing about it. It has to be in the ground way before, because otherwise you're not going to get anything. So I've got, as I mentioned, I've got those 30 by 30 gardens, 2 of them. I also have 2 40 square foot garden raised beds, so 40 by 10 specifically. And I'll probably build another one in the spring. So I get a lot of guidance, if you will, from other sites. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, I won't lie. I mean, I know how to grow a lot of these things, but I have gotten so much information from the Roots and Refuge site and Jessica Soward's that I would definitely encourage you to check out their site. So it's rootsandrefuge.com. You definitely want to be looking at that. One of the things that Jessica mentioned was that on a seed packet, you'll notice that there's an expiry date. And the expiry date is there because it has to be by law. The reality is, the seeds don't necessarily expire. There are some seeds that have been planted after 2, 3, 25 years. As long as they're kept in a cool, dry place, seeds do last quite a long time. And the reality is, I mean, if you've got these seeds, if you find a pack of seeds that has been lying around for the last little while, go ahead and plant it. Go ahead and plant it. As Jess says, basically, every seed you throw out has 0% chance of successfully growing anything. Plant it. Plant 2 or 3 of them in the same place. But see what happens, because you'll be surprised, or sometimes you'll be surprised at how good they come out. So in my case, I'm very visual. As you gathered, I'm also a list maker. So I'm very visual. I make my list, and then what I'll do is I will go to a board that I've put together. And I've actually sliced this whole process up into about 3 videos. The first video is I'm going to talk to you very quickly about, just quickly about this, how I pick the seeds. And then the next video will be how I actually go about deciding where the seeds are going to go. I also will look at my inventory of seeds and say, okay, well, I'll compare the inventory of seeds that I have against the list of seeds that I want, and if I think I'm missing anything, then I'll go out and buy more seeds. The key is never to buy seeds until you check what you already have. I don't normally wait that long to put this list together. I've normally put this list together a long time ago, which is why I can do it from rote. I start to order seeds in, well, December, to be quite honest with you. Corn. I start to order seeds in December. And the reason I do that is because a couple of years ago, during the whole pandemic, there were seed shortages, and I did not want to be caught short, so I ordered a lot. It's the same reason I bought hundreds of mason jars, because I could find them. And I bought those actually in May. And it's a good thing I did, because by the time September rolled around, there were no mason jars to be found. So I was way ahead of the game. Now, I try to keep about 100 jars of each two sizes. There's the 1 liter size, which is about 34 ounces, and the half liter, which is about, well, 17 and a half ounces. And I generally find that I use the 500s more than I use the thousands, the 1 liter jars. So now, the ones I buy, and this is because I'm frugal, some would say cheap, are the regular mouth jars. And the reason for that is the regular mouth jars are about $4 or $5 a case cheaper. So what does that mean? Well, when it comes to juice, it means absolutely nothing, because it's easy to pour it all out. Now, I pack chicken drumsticks, for example, and I pack those into 1 liter jars, into 1 liter regular mouth jars. It was a bit of a challenge to get out, but still, the meat was fall off the bone. I don't want to digress too far. Okay, my notes here say I do want to buy what I need, but I do have a tendency to overbuy. So, well, I'd rather have more than less. So that's why I bought, I think it was 240 of each size. Now, one of the things you'll want to know is that when you're planting your garden, other than planting out the seeds, you're going to want to check your latest frost date. So the last frost date of the season. Now, I'm considered to be in the Ottawa Valley. So our last frost date, technically, is somewhere around Victoria Day, which I believe is, it's the third Monday in May. Basically, what I'm looking at is a last frost date of June 1st. Why? Because last year, I planted when I was supposed to, and 2 weeks after I planted, my seedlings that I had been caring for and raising, and quite nice sized, almost 6 inches tall, some of them, I put them in the ground when I normally do, and the 1st of June, we had a frost. It killed everything. So I had to replant a lot of things. It did hinder my production, but it didn't kill it, because the replanting just meant that I'd have to take a little extra time. So let me give you a little bit of advice. Again, I've stolen this unapologetically from Jess. Peppers and eggplants should be started about 8 weeks prior to the last frost. So if you're using June 1st as your last frost date, that means April 6th. Some people argue with me about this because they start their peppers 12 weeks before. So it's a free country. The only problem is if they get too tall, then you need to upsize the pot. In other words, you have to transplant the pot so that it's got more room for the roots. But the other problem is that it could get leggy. Leggy just means that it gets tall, thin, and waves around a lot. Not very good. You just have to stake it out when you put it in the garden. So that's peppers and eggplant. Tomatoes, regardless of the variety, I start those 6 weeks ahead of time. So in this particular case, it means April 20th. Cucumbers, squash, and melons, I will start indoors about 3 weeks prior, which is in and around May 11th. However, that said, they can also be directly sown. So you don't have to start them indoors. You can wait and just start them outdoors. The downside to that is you're taking 3 weeks off your growing season. And if you've got a growing season as short as mine, because my last frost might be June 1st, but my first frost is middle of October. So I want to get them up there as quickly as I can so I can harvest a lot more. Keep an eye on the weather reports. If you've got frost tender plants and you know the temperature is going to drop to within 4 or 5 degrees Celsius of the freezing point, cover them. Because 4 or 5 degrees Celsius with wind, if you take into account the wind chill, that could actually be below zero, and that will kill your plants. Ask me how I know. If you have a greenhouse and it's heated even a little bit, you can probably start your plants inside it. But be prepared to heat it because, well, again, depends on where you are. In this area, I would have to heat the greenhouse if I was to start them early. Even if I went by the the guidance that I've given you. I have a steel rack that's actually just over there, and nothing fancy. Picked it up on Amazon. Weighs about half the weight of my car. However, it is on wheels. I roll it around. It's got grow lights on it. Thank you, Amazon. And that's my setup, honestly. You can buy heat mats, and honestly, heat mats do help. But the thing that helps the most is actually when you buy a tray that you put your seedlings in, buy a dome to go over it. Because for the first week or so, you want to maintain the humidity at a certain point, and the only way you can really do that is if you have a dome set up. So that traps the moisture in. Definitely want to look at that. I'll have a link down at the bottom of the video to Amazon. Yes, it's an affiliate link, where I bought my trays, my plugs, and my domes. I bought them 3 separate. Are they expensive? Kind of. But the key to it is that they're strong. So they're good for at least 3 or 4 seasons if you take care of them. So something to keep in mind. For me, I ordered 10 trays, for example, that hold 200 seedlings each, and domes to go on top of that, and trays to go underneath it to capture the water. So those 3 things all together cost about $200 Canadian. I don't know what they cost in the US. I didn't look. But you'll definitely want to look at that. I'll go over that in more detail in the third part of the video when we get to the whole planting the seeds and things like that. You'll see me actually put the seeds in the trays and put them on, I guess, put the domes over them and put them on my steel rack. Okay. One of the other things I do is I can a lot. This is a given. I can a lot. A lot of tomato juice. I put a lot of tomato juice. So in my case, I pressure canned at 10 pounds pressure for 90 minutes. Here's a trick I learned about pressure canning. I had a lot of issues with the liquid in the jars bubbling out. And what I recently found out was the reason for that was that the temperature was too high. So I have a gas stove. I'm going to have to dial it back a little bit. We'll go into the whole canning thing a bit later on. I mentioned melons, I mentioned squash, tomatoes, beans, peppers. One of the things I forgot to mention was 2 actually. I forgot to mention that I like to grow okra. I'll grow okra mostly so that I can use it to thicken soups and that sort of thing. But also my fruit trees. I'm in the process of growing a small orchard. So apple, plum, pear, and cherry trees, for example. It's been a challenge, mostly because I haven't been able to get water to them effectively. I don't have a hose that reaches long enough yet, so I'm going to be working on that infrastructure. So I'll probably put something a little more permanent in. I have a pond to pump the water from, so I've got plenty of water. But it's still going to be 3 to 4 years before I get anything. Anyway, I'm going to actually cut it off there, and I'm going to ask you, if you've enjoyed the video, please click the thumbs up button at the bottom of the screen. Also, please share the video around with your friends whom you might think would enjoy or find this sort of information useful. And if you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel because it'll help my channel grow. Sorry for the pun. Thanks so much for stopping by. I thank you for your time and look forward to providing more information. And as always, your comments are welcome. Feel free to share your ideas as well. I love to read more. Until next time, keep your shovel in the dirt, sun at your back, and a smile on your face.